Hey guys! Since so many of you requested another video about things you can do when you feel bored, I will share a ton of fun DIYs and art hacks with you today that you can try out. This video is also a collaboration with Essence. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. With their help, I'm going to show you how to upcycle your old and empty makeup containers to create something fun and beautiful. And all these DIYs are not only beautiful and fun to recreate, but they will also help you to organize and seriously upgrade your life. Also, don't forget to activate the bell and to comment below #makoccino in the first 24 hours for a chance to get a shout out and to win arts and crafts supplies in my ongoing giveaway. And now let's jump into the tutorial. As I mentioned in the beginning, for these arts and crafts DIYs, you will need a bunch of old containers. And for the first project, all you need is a small container. Here I'm going to use an empty jar from my nail mask by Essence, but you can use any other container you have at home. Before we can start, make sure to remove any leftovers. Here I used a cotton pad to collect any leftover mask from the jar and then put it into another container so I can use it up later. Clean the inside as much as possible and then we can remove the label. If you have troubles removing any labels, you can use a hairdryer to carefully melt the sticky part of the labels or use some water to scrub it off if it's made of paper. Once the container is clean, we can go ahead and beautify it. For this step, I'm going to use a warm gold colored spray paint so I can evenly apply the paint. Make sure to do this outside or in a very ventilated room so you don't have to breathe it in. Once you covered everything in paint, let it dry completely. Now all you have to do is fill it up with soil, add some water, place a small succulent inside, and your small planter is finished. I really love how it turned out because it looks super cute and elegant at the same time. The next idea is to create these beautiful vases that you can use for small flowers or air plants. For these DIYs, you will need a bunch of bottles of old nail polish that you don't want or can't use anymore. The first thing we need to do is to get rid of any leftover nail polish that is inside the bottles. Begin by pouring any leftover nail polish into a container that you don't mind throwing away later. To get rid of most of the nail polish that is stuck inside the bottles, fill in some nail polish remover or rubbing alcohol inside the bottles by using either a small funnel or a pipette. And then close the lid and shake the bottle very well to detach as much nail polish as possible from the walls. Pour out the liquid and then repeat the steps. It might take a while until removed everything because some nail polish might be really pesky and already so dried up that it will be more difficult to remove it. But don't give up. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean as we will paint them over, but I don't want our flowers to suffer from any remaining nail polish inside. Also, make sure to have your windows open during the whole process so your room is well ventilated. Nail polish and nail polish remover is nothing you want to breathe in too much. You can also use a Q-tip and a cotton pad soaked with nail polish remover to get rid of any leftover varnish inside, on the top, and on the neck area of the bottle. It can take a while until you have removed every little bit, but if you feel bored and don't know what to do, this is a perfect activity you can do for a while. Now to create an even surface, remove the labels from the bottles. If you have troubles with it, you can simply use a nail polish remover again or a hairdryer. Once we have our bottles empty and clean, we can go ahead and beautify them. For this step, I wanted to make them colorful by using spray paint in different colors. First, I placed the bottles onto some piece of cardboard on my balcony because it's really important that everything is super ventilated. And then I applied one coat of paint onto every bottle that I selected for my vases. I used really soft pastel colors such as a creamy white, blue, and violet, but you can use any color you like, of course. The reason why I chose spray paint is because you can apply the paint super evenly and really quickly at the same time. To get the best result, I would recommend to place the bottles with the neck downwards so you can spray paint every side. Just be careful so they don't fall down. But it's okay if you don't. You can also place them with the bottom downwards first, spray paint it, and then turn them around once the paint has dried, and then add the paint to the areas that are not covered yet. Let everything completely dry and then we can go ahead and add more details with another color. For For this step, I used some washi tape and covered up some areas where I wanted to keep the colors the way they are. If you just want to spray paint the bottom, you can also roll some paper to create a cylindrical shape and then attach it to the bottle with the opening looking downwards. Let everything dry again, remove the tape, and the vases are finished. Now what you can do is you can either attach a magnet to the bottle so you can add these cute vases to your fridge, or you can just leave them the way they are and just place them onto your desk. Now you can arrange some small flowers into your vases and decorate your home with them. If you decide to use a magnet, make sure to use a really strong one because I use these self-adhesive magnets and I not only had troubles keeping them glued onto the bottles, but they were way too weak to hold the bottles for some reason, even though they weren't that heavy. So I would recommend to use strong magnets that you can attach with hot glue instead. I find the flowers look so beautiful in these vases that they actually make really cute gifts, don't you think? But if you rather want to keep the bottles clear without any paint, another great idea I have for you is to create an air plant hanging planter. All you need to do is attach a string to the bottom of the bottle using hot glue. First, I made a knot and then carefully placed it inside the hot glue while making sure that everything is properly covered. But be very careful. Let the glue cool down and then you can hang it up wherever you want. I really love how it turned out. It looks so simple but still so extraordinary. Another fun project you can create with old containers is this beautiful wall hanging. For this DIY, all you need are some old and dried up mascara tubes and some yarn. Here I'm going to use 3 of these mascaras, but you can use any other tube container that is similar. Begin by removing any stickers or labels that might be in the way, and then we can go ahead and paint the tubes. For this step, I used a creamy colored spray paint and applied it all over the tubes. Make sure you spray it from far away or the tubes might fall down. Let them dry and then cover up the areas that you have missed. The good thing is that this spray paint dries super quickly, so you don't have to wait that long. Make sure that the mascara or the tube you're using has an even and straight shape, so when you place them next to each other, they create a perfect line. Now to glue them together, I'm going to use hot glue, but make sure that your glue is strong enough or it might not hold that well. Apply the glue to the inner sides of the 2 outer tubes and then carefully glue all 3 together. Make sure you create a straight line when gluing them together or the project might look crooked in the end. While the glue cools down, we can go ahead and prepare the yarn pieces for the wall hanging. For this step, take your yarn in the color of your choice and create a loop by holding one end of the yarn with your hand while wrapping it around your elbow to create a loop. Do this a couple of times. The more you do that, the thicker the tassel will become later. Just make sure that the amount is similar or the different thickness will be visible later. Once you created enough loops, cut off the excess string and then attach it to the now cooled down mascara tubes. For this step, place the yarn underneath the tube and then pull the end of the yarn through the top part of the loop to secure everything. Pull everything tightly but carefully. And now you need to repeat the steps a few times until you created as many tassels as you can fit onto the stick, but keep the number uneven. Wrap the yarn around your underarm a few times to create a loop, place it underneath the mascara stick, pull the yarn through the upper part of the loop, and then pull everything tightly. I would recommend to use the same length for every tassel because it will be a lot easier for you to trim it down later without running out of yarn if you mess something up. I thought I would make my life easier by already adjusting the length while creating the loops, which was not the case at all. I also added another color to the design to make it look more interesting and not so plain. Once I attached 11 tassels to the mascara stick, I went ahead and cut the loops to open them at the bottom, but you can also do that after creating one tassel at a time to make it easier for you. Now to be able to hang it up, I took my yarn again and folded it 4 times while creating a triangle that looked tall enough. Cut off the excess yarn and attach the ends to the sides of the mascara stick. To make the knots less visible, I pulled the yarn through the tassels on the other sides and slightly covered it up in between the yarn. Now all we have to do is to give our wall hanging a haircut. Hang it up so it's easier for you and then create a triangle shape at the bottom that is looking downwards. Once you make sure that the sides are equally long, you're done. Super simple to make, and no one would think that you basically only use your old mascara with some yarn to create it. I really like how it turned out because it's simple and cozy at the same time. And if you need something to organize your accessories like necklaces and bracelets, you can create this really easy to make DIY holder with your old and dried up mascara or concealer tubes. If you don't want to have your leftover makeup inside your future DIY accessory holder, you can remove it, of course. If you use a lip gloss or concealer tube as I do it here, you want to remove the stopper first so you can access the inside more easily. For this step, take a small knife or an X-Acto knife and carefully squeeze it in between the stopper and the tube while pushing it away from you. Be very careful with that. This way you should be able to move the stopper and eventually remove it from the tube. Now you can use the applicator of your makeup that you're using or a Q-tip to get rid of as much of the old leftover makeup as possible. If you can still use the makeup, you can of course fill it into an additional container and use up the rest. I also try to use a little bit of makeup remover and rubbing alcohol the same way as we did with the nail polish bottles. It actually helped a little, it just took some time. We just want to clean the inside as much as possible so we don't have to worry about it later. Don't forget to remove any labels and stickers, and then we can move on to finally beautifying the tubes. For this design, I'm going to use a warm gold color again to make the tubes look like shiny metal. Carefully cover everything with spray paint, let it dry, and then cover the rest of the tubes. Now to turn them into a metal stick, all we have to do is gluing all 3 tubes together using hot glue again. Apply a little bit of glue to the inner sides of the outer 2 containers and carefully glue them together. Make sure the tubes are straight while attaching them together. And then we get this shiny metal looking stick for our jewelry holder. Now we just need to create the hooks where we can hang up the accessories. For this step, you will need some thick wire that is strong but bendable enough. Now take the wire and bend it over the tube to create a curve, then turn it around and do the same towards the opposite side, and then cut off the excess wire. You want to create a few hooks that look like this. Create as many hooks as you need, and then we can go ahead and attach some string to the metal stick so we can hang it up. Here I use black colored cord and simply attach it to the sides by creating a knot. Now you can hang it up and attach the hooks to the stick. If you don't want the hooks to move around, you can simply press down the wire around the tubes to secure them. And the jewelry holder is finished. Now you can organize all your everyday accessories so you don't have to look for them anywhere, because now we have everything in one place and ready to be worn. And for your other small jewelry, I have 2 more DIYs for you. Another easy DIY is this bracelet or hair tie holder. For this DIY, you will need an old small plate from a planter or a bowl and another tube of your old concealer, lip gloss, or mascara. Make sure to remove any labels that might be visible later, and then we can go ahead and beautify them as well. For the plate and the tube, I used a white colored spray paint because I wanted to keep it simple so I can add more details to make it look elegant. Once everything is covered in paint and has dried, we can add more details. I went ahead and covered the rim with copper colored acrylic paint. My plan was to cover it evenly, but I kinda like this shabby chic design I accidentally created, which I kept in the end. Next, attach the tube on top of the plate using hot glue while making sure it's in the center. You can now paint the top part of the accessory holder in the same color to finish off the design. And then you're done. Once the paint is dried, you have finally a place to easily store all your bracelets or your hair ties without them getting lost again, hopefully. And you have troubles keeping your earrings in one place and you worry about losing them when you travel somewhere, an easy way to keep everything neatly in one place is by making a DIY ring and earring holder. For this DIY, you will need an empty tray like this empty powder box, but you can use any other container that has a similar shape. First, clean the inside to remove any leftover powder or other makeup. If you want, you can also decorate the lid. Here I simply used some gold colored spray paint again and applied it on both sides and let it dry. And then all you need to do is wrap some felt around a piece of fabric that is double the height of the box you're using. And then carefully start rolling it into a snail. The reason why I used felt is because the fabric itself was not thick enough to fill the whole box. but if you have an old towel, you can use that instead and cut off a piece that is as tall as the container, roll it in the same way, and then place it inside the box. Once you place the created snail inside the box, you can add your rings or earrings inside between the layers of fabric where they can be stored safely. Now you can close the lid so nothing falls out, and you can take this small jewelry box wherever you go. But you can also use your empty containers for different art projects. For example, I love using rubbing alcohol when I paint with watercolors, and this Express Drops bottle by Essence is one of the things I love using because it's small and handy. Simply clean the bottle the same way as we did in the beginning, remove the label if you want, and then all you need to do is fill in a little bit of rubbing alcohol inside using a pipette. This way you don't have to deal with a huge bottle nor finding a pipette because this small bottle has everything you need. Super simple, but I really love this hack. But you can also use the same bottles to create ink paint and create art when you feel bored. All you need are felt pens that are old or that you don't want to use anymore and rubbing alcohol. Begin by removing the plastic tips on every end of your felt pen using pliers. Here I wanted to create just 3 different colors and used 3 felt pens for each color to get as much ink as possible. Place the inside into some plastic cups and cut it into smaller pieces. Next, pour in a little bit of rubbing alcohol inside the cups and let everything soak inside. The ink part of the felt pens will now get absorbed into the rubbing alcohol that we can use as paint later. Let everything sit for a few hours or until you see that the ink part turned almost white. Now all you have to do is pour them inside the bottles. Here I used a pipette again to carefully fill each bottle until it was full. And now we have our own homemade alcohol-based inks that you can use for many different projects. Go ahead and experiment with these inks. You can use them the way they are or mix them together. If you have more bottles you can use, you can create even more colors. I just wanted to give you an idea of what you can do. If you like the idea of creating your own art supplies, why not making your own acrylic spray paints? All you need are empty spray bottles and a little bit of acrylic paint. Here I'm going to use the setting spray bottles by Essence. Begin by cleaning the inside with some water and then remove the label. Next, pour in a little bit of acrylic paint inside the bottles. You don't need a lot, but the more you add, the more pigmented it will be later. Now all you need to do is add some warm water inside the bottles, but keep a little bit of space inside and then shake everything really well. Shake the bottles until everything is mixed together and the spray paint bottles are finished. Now you can create all sorts of cool artworks with it. You can create backgrounds, abstract paintings, and more. I like using spray paint with stencils because you can cut out any shape and use either the shape you cut out or the leftover hole in the paper to create different results. And if you also created the rubbing alcohol drops, you can go ahead and experiment with it as well. You can just let go and be messy while having fun. Another thing you have seen me using is masking fluid, but as some of you might know, it's not that healthy for paintbrushes. So why don't we use an empty nail polish bottle for that, as it already comes with a perfect brush. Here I used the bottle of the French Manicure Tip Painter by Essence because it has a really thin brush that you can use for small details. Remove any leftover nail polish and then clean the inside the same way as we did in the beginning. But this time don't forget to clean the brush as well because we will use it for the masking fluid later. Remove the labels if you want, and then we can go ahead and fill in some of the masking fluid inside the bottle. Here I'm going to use a pipette, but keep in mind that you won't be able to use it for something else later. So clean it as much as possible and keep it for the next time you want to fill in more masking fluid inside the bottle. Once filled up, you're done. And since this nail polish bottle comes with a thin tip, you can create super tiny details that you can incorporate into your artwork. And if you're on the go and want to take some paints with you, why not creating a small color palette using an old eyeshadow palette that you can carry around with you as well. For this project, you can use any eyeshadow palette that you don't feel like using anymore or that is already empty. But to avoid wasting all the leftover makeup, I scraped everything off into a container by dividing the colors. This way I can mix everything together and maybe even create a new color that I totally love and will actually wear. After I removed as much eyeshadows as possible, I used makeup remover and cleaned everything even more. You can also use a sponge and soap to clean the palette. I also tried to use a Q-tip and an X-Acto knife to really remove as much eyeshadow as possible. Let the palette dry and then we can go ahead and add the paint. Here I used watercolor paints that I got in tubes this time because I really wanted to try them out. I added blue, yellow, and red in 2 different tones. If you have watched my latest video about color theory, you might already know why. But if you haven't, make sure to check it out after watching this video. But of course you can also use this palette for acrylic paint, so you don't have to take all your bottles with you. And the lid will help to avoid the paint to dry out. I think it's a great idea for times when you just want to take a little bit of paint with you, and also as a gift in case you want to share some of your paint with your friend. And since a lot of you guys asked me about how to clean your brushes, I wanted to share this cool hack with you guys that is super simple to recreate. All you need is an empty container. Here I'm going to use an almost empty powder box. First, make sure to remove any leftover makeup from your container that you might still want to use, and then clean the rest of the container. Now all you have to do is create dots and lines to create a pattern inside the container using hot glue. Make sure you don't cover everything with glue, you still want some empty areas in between so you can clean your brushes later. Let the glue cool down and your compact and portable brush cleaner is finished. Now you can easily keep it in your pouch and take it wherever you go to clean your brushes with this brush cleaner and some soap. I really hope it gave you a ton of new ideas what you can do with your old makeup and their containers before you throw them away. If you need even more ideas how you can upcycle your old makeup containers, I linked a bunch of people in my description box that shared even more ideas, so go check them out. A huge shout out to Shiguro Natsu, thank you so much for watching my videos. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching guys, have a wonderful day and I will see you soon. Bye!